In-class activity 11D, one sample z-test for proportions. According to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, if more than 10% of homes in a city record over 15 parts per billion ppb of lead in their drinking water, the city exceeds federal standards for lead in drinking water. 1, based on your previous reading, why do you think the EPA monitors the amount of lead in drinking water? Answers will vary, but a sample answer is as follows. Lead in drinking water can inhibit brain development of fetuses and small children. It can cause anemia, hearing problems, cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, heart and kidney disease, reduced fertility, and even death. Okay. What are the objectives of the activity? You will understand the conclusion of the hypothesis test is framed as evidence in support of or not in support of the alternative hypothesis. Students will be able to obtain a test statistics and p-value for a one sample z-test for proportions using technology. Write the conclusion of the hypothesis test in context. Use the p-value to support the conclusions of a complete hypothesis test. And finally, conduct a one sample z-test for proportions that includes all the necessary steps to support conclusions. Okay. Question 2. In 2015, Virginia Tech study reported that out of a sample of 252 homes in Flint, Michigan, 42 of them had over 15 ppb of lead in their drinking water. At the 1% significance level, do the data indicate that the city of Flint exceeded the EPA standard? Part A, write the null hypothesis in symbols and in a complete sentence. Write the null hypothesis in symbols and as a complete sentence. This is the answer. The null hypothesis H0 is P equals 0.1. 0.1 is the same as 10%. The null hypothesis H0 is P equals 0.1. And as a complete sentence, we said the proportion of homes in Flint that had over 15 ppb of lead in their drinking water was 10%. Part B, write the alternative hypothesis in symbols and in a complete sentence. This time we want the alternative hypothesis. Since the null hypothesis says P equals 0, in this case, the alternative hypothesis is HA, A for alternative, P greater than 0.1. The sample answer here is the proportion of homes in Flint had over 15 ppb of lead in their water was above 0.1. We can say the proportion of homes in Flint that had over 15 ppb of lead in their drinking water exceeded the EPA standard. Okay. Let's look at part C. Verify that the conditions of the one sample z-test for proportions have been met. This is important. Verify that the conditions for the one sample z-test for the proportions have been met. Here is it. First, a random sample was observed. The population of homes in Flint was larger than 20 times 252, which is 50/40. Also, homes either did or did not exceed the 15 parts per billion of lead in their drinking water. And most importantly, NP, which is 252 times 0.1, is 25, greater than 10. N times 1 minus P, which is 252 times 0.9, gives us 226.8, which is also greater than 10. So both of them are greater than 10. So the conditions are satisfied. Part D, we want to go online to DCMP inference for population proportion 2 with our usual app, Shiny Apps, and calculate the test statistics and the p-value. Go to our usual site and calculate the test statistics and p-value. From that site, we saw that the Z is 3.53, p-value is 0.0002. And we see those right here in the sample output. We see it here. We entered 252 here, we entered the 42 here. We selected significance level. And after inputting the information, the app will give us this, and we can read it from it directly. It's just a sample output from the app. By going to this website, okay. Part E. Write the null hypothesis. Will the null hypothesis be rejected? Based on what we now know, will the null hypothesis be rejected? The answer is big yes, because the null hypothesis will be rejected since 0.002 is less than 0.01. 0.0002 is less than 0.01. This is the p-value. This is the level of significance alpha, showing that indeed p-value is less than alpha. And whenever p-value is less than alpha, we reject the null hypothesis. So we reject the null hypothesis. At the 1% level, significance level, do the data indicate that the city of Flint exceeded the EPA standard? Write the conclusion in a sentence. Okay, since we already reject the null hypothesis, Our conclusion will be at the 1% significance level, there is sufficient evidence that the city of Flint exceeded the EPA standard. There is sufficient evidence that the city of Flint indeed exceeded the EPA standard. Number 3, why do you think the 1% significance level is used here? Why not 10% or 5%? Well, the 1% level of significance is more convincing than a higher percent, like 5% or 10%. So we use 1% because the result will be more convincing. Number 4, suppose our sample resulted in a p-value of 0.023. Would it be okay to make a conclusion at the 5% significance level instead? Let's say it again. Suppose our sample resulted in a p-value of 0.023. Would it be okay to make a conclusion at the 5% significance level instead? The answer is definitely no. No, it will not be okay because it is not ethical. We started with 1%, we did it with 1%, so we conclude with 1%. We do not change it to 5% level. At 1% significance level was set, a 1% significance level was set before the study based on context. It will not be ethical to change your significance level after conducting the study just to support your desired conclusion. Let's say it again. We're saying no, it will not be okay because it is not ethical. A 1% significance level was set before the study based on context. It will not be ethical to change your significance level after conducting the study just to support your desired conclusion. Thank you. I see you at the next one.